conspire, and the kings plot in vain. The kings of the earth rise up, and the rulers band together against the Lord and against his anointed. The one in heaven, he laughs at them. The Lord scoffs at them, rebukes them in his anger, and terrifies them in his wrath. Oh yeah, oh yeah. I will make the nations your inheritance, the ends of the earth your possession. Break them with a rod of iron, dash them to pieces like pottery. Therefore, kings, be wise, be warned, you rulers of the earth. Serve the Lord with fear, celebrate his rule with trembling. The one in heaven, he laughs at them. The Lord scoffs at them, rebukes them in his anger, and terrifies them in his wrath. I have set my king on my holy mountain. Kiss his son, or he will be angry, and your way will lead to your destruction. His wrath can flare up in a moment. Blessed are all who take refuge in him. Why do the nations conspire, and the kings plot in vain? The kings of the earth rise up, and the rulers band together against the Lord and against his anointed. The one in heaven, he laughs at them. The Lord scoffs at them, rebukes them in his anger, and terrifies them in his wrath.
Greetings in the name of the Most High. I kind of resisted. I talked with my wife, and I talked to Pia, and I talked to a couple of people that I didn't want to be responsible for suicide, of people, blackpilling them with what I know, because what I know in the wrong hands would be very dangerous. And what I know is, I know things you don't know. I know things that people that think they're experts don't know. And it all gets tied in, fortunately or unfortunately, with what I said as a teenager. It's everything, everywhere, all the time. And that has been the cause of my persecution, downfall, incarcerations, and all sorts of unfair treatment, gang stalking, you name it, all that, because of that one statement. Now today, I tie in, a lot of you that really like Trump are going to hate this, but I tie in the the Epstein death, the Masonic influence, secret society influence on America, and the Trump administration, Trump himself, and of all things, Charlie Kirk and his widow. Now, those of you who have written me to say, go easy on the widow, you're just wrong. And what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to, do the research like everybody else. You're going to have to grow up a little bit and understand this is the way history is made. This is history. So it's not something subject to, loose opinions, things like that. It's evidence is perfectly, been perfectly laid out, but the message has been impossible for people to assimilate. And because Charlie Kirk is Trump, meaning there's a connection between assassination and the Trump administration, which I'm sure leaves a lot of people saying, oh, come on, And I understand, we've been brainwashed all our lives, and we've been taught. I haven't been taught, but you have had the luxury of being able to live in a bubble for all your lives. And I have not had that luxury because I had to pay the price for it, even though maybe it was a lucky guess on my part. I don't know. But I had, about the time of Kennedy and Bobby Kennedy and Martin Luther King, I had figured it out. That the U.S. government is not just what it says it is. You have no participation in it. Votes, obviously, are, cute, but a joke. And you're here as an experiment, basically, until they're done with you. And then they intend to get rid of you and go to a technocratic robot type society or whatever stupid cartoon, Bill Gates nonsense thing they want to do. And that much. But a lot of people are holding on and not committing suicide because they're getting onto this. Believe me, when I understood the way the world worked, I immediately sought to commit suicide. My daughter, when she saw the way the world works, which is basically the abuser is in control, okay? And when she saw there was no hope for her, even with God or Jesus, she committed suicide. When she realized that she was stuck and that her dream of settling down with a husband and some kids and so forth, and just trying to have a normal life, was dashed by the fact that the system is the pedophile. The system is the war, is the murder, is the theft, is the lie, and that there is no other point of view. It tends to make people lose hope. Now I'm going to give you just a little bit of truth. It doesn't come from a Christian, thank God. It's coming from a guy, maybe he may be left wing. I don't know. Some wing. It's High Impact Films. And he did took the recording of Senator Kennedy interviewing Pam Bondi and showing in proof. And this is something that, again, the fact that the proof was run right by you and you didn't pick up on it shows how programmed, we all are, right? They can run the truth right by you and you, and, we can get into the stuff about the bullet of whatever, or the phone call with Erika Kirk, who's up to her eyeballs in it. And as she said to the guy on the phone, the TPUSA guy, and I forget his name now because his name and his face are totally forgettable. And I intend to leave it that way. But, he said, do you know what's going on? She goes, I know everything. Of course she does. You saw the ring, right? The G. You saw the Trump. You saw the presentation. You saw the ceremony, the ritual. It all took place, and the energy got sucked out of all you devoted people who were just trying to give respect and faith and prayer in favor of Charlie Kirk, and you were being played the whole time. I'm not saying your prayers were in vain. I'm just saying the fact that you didn't understand what you were participating in is why they cover it up from you, because they're not done with you yet. Another little tidbit that people didn't know, it was right there in front of you, right there, right in front of your face. And that is every single person at the memorial, at the State Farm arena, was surveilled through there for every single one. 277,000 people were surveilled completely, all tracked, and they're being tracked now, who went there to participate. And that's your reward for having participated. Okay, now we'll get into something. I'm going to go ahead and flip this to, hopefully I'll be able to land on some of this footage of Senator Kennedy, and this should answer Epstein. Epstein's the key to Erika Kirk. Erika Kirk is the key to TPUSA and all the money laundering that went on with that, and all the, I won't even say money laundering. What I'll just say is there's a lot to be uncovered, and there's a lot to cover up. But first of all, let's go to the cover-upper in chief, the general cover-upper, who has covered up, who is the reason why you have no arrests. And here is the brilliant, ingenious Pam Bondi. Now, hopefully, give you a second to do this, because this is a rather new technology for me.
Blab in his mouth to fake stream.
Or the director of the FBI, and I'm trying to get the phone records of a sitting United States senator. Did I mention it was a sitting United States senator? Is that something that you would expect me to tell you as director of the FBI?
In general, I would believe the FBI would help execute the subpoenas.
Yeah.
To the
Okay, I want to switch to another subject in the 12 minutes that I have left, since everybody else got to go over.
Here's the meat of the situation right here.
I've got to ask you about this, General. Secretary Howard Lutnick on October 1 gave an interview
Howard
to
Lutnick,
the New York Post about Mr. Epstein.
right-hand man of Trump.
And he described Mr. Epstein as, quote, the greatest blackmailer ever, close quote. Have you reviewed that transcript of that interview?
I have not reviewed the transcript, but I saw the clip of it.
Okay. It appears that Secretary Lutnick was Mr. Epstein's next door neighbor. In fact, their townhomes shared a wall. And the reporter that was talking to Mr. Lutnick, she asked how other prominent men could have been associated with Epstein when Mr. Lutnick could immediately sense that he was a, quote, pervert. And then Secretary Lutnick said, or rather the reporter said, did they see it and ignore it? Do you remember that from the interview?
I do.
And Commerce Secretary Lutnick said, no, they participated.
Boom.
And then
Now think about this. The Attorney General under President Donald Trump, Pam Bondi, saw this interview. She heard what Lutnick said, and she admits to have watched it. She could have picked up the phone as the DOJ and said, we need to talk to Lutnick. We need to conduct some interviews. We need to find out what's going on here, because Donald Trump is telling everybody this is just a Democrat hoax. And now we got Lutnick out here just blabbing his mouth to fake stream media. We got to get this guy in a room, and we need to question him, see what's going on.
Commerce Secretary Lutnick goes on to say, quote, that's what his MO was. You know, get a massage. And what happened in that massage room, I assume, was a video.
a member of Trump's cabinet is saying this is what Jeffrey Epstein's life was all about. This was his mode of operations. This was his MO. This is how he did things. He was just a freaking pervert. Donald Trump was friends with this guy, good friends, for 15 years. And they're not going to bring this guy.
Okay. And that's just the point. That is the point that, that Trump and Epstein go back those 15 years. And of course they do. West Palm Beach, high society, blah, blah, blah. The Masonic connection, I've always had this thing about Trump, and they go, well, he is a Mason. When I was defending Trump a lot more, I was having some false hope that he was going to, right some of the obvious wrongs about the economy, world trade, wars, and so forth and so on, and seemed to be an innovator in those things. But just like, every other leader, just like I knew when I was 17 years old, there is nobody fit to lead the United States of America and nobody fit to lead TPUSA. And now as I begin to connect those things, of all you sorry people that are now surveilled 24/7 because you attended the State Farm Memorial, which was not a memorial, but a ritual, and it's a satanic ritual, and you were abused, and now you're going to defend it. So what I see is a connection between, Trump, obviously Epstein, and the widow. So people are wondering, why is she smiling, laughing, and all this other, very disrespectful to her memory of her husband? And why did she say she knows everything, which was repeated a couple of times? It's because she does know everything. She was ready to take her role as the new queen, and she was installed by Trump, and that's it. And the people are like forever dedicated to her, just like, I guess it's kind of like Mary worship, for the Catholics. They've got Erika now to worship. And I'm sorry for you who want to defend her. Because I know that if what I'm saying turns out to be true, you'll be very vulnerable in your life. You'll be very, you might get in trouble, and I'm sorry about that. But I can't just not broadcast because I'm worried about suicides. I can't do that. And you've got to be, if that's your fate, if that's the way it's going to go, sooner or later, you're going to, really understand the truth. This is all one thing that's happening. Not two things, not, Israeli versus Trump versus this versus that. This is one thing. And it's very, very gigantic. It's so big that, and I don't blame anyone for for feeling suicidal because of being black pilled, but that's not on me. If I don't say the truth and speak what I ought to speak, then I blaspheme my Lord. I blaspheme the Creator, and I'm not going to do that for you. I've gone to therapy myself to try to cope with the overwhelming old information that I knew when I was a child, and I always got in trouble for that. And it was before Kennedy. Of course, I did see Oswald get shot on live TV. I actually saw, there was not a rerun. In those days, they didn't have them. I saw Jack Ruby shoot him right into the heart. And boy, that really left that tainted me. And then from that point on, I knew. And then when the Beverly Hills, experience erupted and everyone being part of the cult, of course, I was surprised. All these guys are Trump. All these guys are in bed with Trump. And what they're hoping for is that, there's no war, there's a good economy, they can prosper, take care of their families. And I understand that. It takes a very mature person to take care of your family, to budget properly, to be able to to get through, but it's they squeeze the life out of it. And if Democrats get their way, it's another $1.5 trillion into their coffers in favor of illegals, which they want to replace in their replacement business. They want to replace you, obviously. And the reason they want to do that is because they can't win an election based on, destroying the economy, which is what they will do if they get power. And, they play on people's fears, and they play on, the Saul Alinsky tactics of basically the left, which is to make everyone fearful that Trump's going to take away your Social Security. Therefore, they go ahead and reflexively vote. The pox on both houses is really in order. And if that's going to make you kill yourself, then you were already, in my opinion, you already needed help, and you didn't reach out for it. Help is available to basically about anybody. And I understand needing help to understand this whole thing, to go look at your parents. I look at Mom. Hi, Mom. So you and Trump, huh? And you and Erika. Oh, I know how you love Erika. You just love her. It's just one big happy family. I mean, at the expense of everybody. Wealth beyond even that cannot be counted. Garnered in the expense of everyone. No communist revolution is going to set that right. It's greed that has put these people in this situation, certainly. It is, but it's not for me to cover up, is I guess my point. And, what I've known before Charlie and Erika and society, which they are very much part of. I found a clip free of any author. That guy was called High Impact Films, by the way. If you want to look him up, he's pretty good. I don't know, this last thing he did was exactly right, but he's, of course, he might say lots of things. I don't know. He's he gets a lot of hate mail because of people from TP USA writing everybody. They have whole committees now that go out to find anyone, questioning Erika Kirk, and they're defenders. They sit there slandering anyone who has anything to say. In fact, an old friend of ours came up to Trish in her Facebook and said, if you don't have anything nice to say, just shut up. And this is a friend. And it's like, wow, I mean, she's really hurt. But then again, she's an evangelical who believes if we don't go to church, we go to hell. And whenever she was my dental hygienist. And whenever she cleaned my teeth, she reminded me, you not going to church, Zeph, is a sin. And isn't it funny how she's coming out to defend TP USA, which to me is just another corrupt bullshit organization. And yes, they're going to have the what is it versus Bad Bunny. I've been watching some of Bad Bunny's videos. They're amusing, but they're not really enlightened musically. But they're Bad Bunny was there before, fronting for somebody. I don't know whether I don't. He was in a silver outfit of some kind. I don't follow that closely. I'm not a fan, but I didn't see the need for TP USA to they're only putting their noses in this without being respectful of Charlie Kirk's passing, to counter this awful satanic, spell that the NFL is putting on people when they themselves are the satanic spell. Okay, that's what I'm trying to tell you. That's what you're not seeming to get. You don't seem to understand. Well, geez, F, if that's true, there's no hope anywhere. Bingo. Megyn Kelly was on the air recently, and she was mad at God. She was really mad that, Charlie was wearing, and this shows what an idiot she is, but a maximum idiot. Okay, maximum dumb shit. But anyway, she goes, he was wearing that not the St. Christopher, some kind of St. Michael pendant. And he had a cross. And he still got shot in the neck where the necklace is hanging. I hate God. Okay? Those of you who saw that, you can't unsee it. If you've seen that clip, you cannot unsee it. I'm not going to run a lot of these little clips because I figure you can go look. They're all over the internet. But the interaction between Bondi and basically the mafia cover-up girl, and hand selected by Trump, the mafia don't, and so all of what you think is good is bad, and all what you think is bad is bad. And that's what you're having trouble coping with. And I'm not going to be the one to stand in your way. I'm trying to make it so you can more quickly work through this and accept the fact that there is no solution. Okay? And I mean, it's you and Jesus, and not collectively with TPUS fucking A. What a bunch of fucking apostate losers that is. Just greedy motherfuckers. You know, greedy for power. I know everything, the bitch says. I know everything. And I'm ready to take my place. And all these people are going to follow me. And they're all going to defend me. And if you're so duped that you think at this point you can actually defend anything to do with them when all these TPUSA guys were around the gunshot and around the crime scene, covering it all up right before your faces, and you didn't see that? And you're going to defend it, the lone gunman? So you've been duped, Oswald, you got duped with Las Vegas, you got duped with all the Sirhan, you got duped with everybody that was handled by Louis Jolyon West, prominent psychiatrist from the UCLA. Well, where was he from, Jeff, if you know so much? He ran the UCLA Neuropsychiatric Institute. He had 500 psychiatrists under him. He and Ronald Reagan, another one of your favorites, basically had decided to implant all blacks and Latinos with microchips to stop them from rioting again the way it was during the Watts riots. Okay? And they do it in underground bases. That's right, through the CIA. And they also make Manchurian candidates like Jonathan Hinckley. Catcher in the Rye, baby. But don't forget him. There's also Mark David Chapman. I think he was another catcher guy who just happened to zone in on John Lennon. And who wanted John Lennon dead? Tricky Dickie Nixon. Don't you remember? I remember everything. And there is no solution. The only solution I've been working on lately is being at peace with myself. And, you know, striving to do better before in the eyes of God. And, you know, I have to show great courage knowing this place is about to blow and then trying to be helpful anyway and not giving up, because it doesn't really matter about what you think if you know the truth or not. What matters is if you know the truth and then you keep functioning as a compassionate individual who cares about other people, who is not just sitting there selfishly trying to survive. If you save your life, you will lose it. You lose your life for my sake, Jesus says. You will find life eternal. That is the only solution there is. Funny how evangelical groups come so close. But unfortunately, demand conformity, which shoots the whole deal down to no deal. Now, how many years do I have to repeat this over and over again? You know, the sad thing for me, most of my peers, I remember back to high school and, you know, more fun times before this satanic divide came in, thanks to our parents. And then people that were lambs were hunted, and people that were with it became like rock stars. Oh, you remember that, don't you? In your high school, with your parents, in the PTA meeting, in the little rituals they would do. But how about, as it goes up the ladder, it gets more and more pedophiliac, like totally illegal, to where in California it's perfectly legal to film kiddie porn. Think that's nice? Think God likes that? Think God looks down on Gavin's shitface and says, boy, you've done a great job. Thank you for protecting the children. So yeah, I'm not really, angry at anyone. I guess the only anger I have is toward stupidity and toward this idea of self-preservation, given the fact we're all going to die anyway. What's the point of, amassing, say, a fortune here and piling it all up if it's going to be swept away with the next high tide? Your little castle in the sand falls away, as Jimi Hendrix said, eventually. And that's the way all life is. So I'm not telling you anything you didn't know, and I'm not causing you to commit suicide. But if you thought, you see, it's going to be much worse than if you thought there was hope in the world. And then you figured out that there wasn't, and that you were lied to by every church, every outlet, every religion, every politician. You were lied to by the whole world, every teacher. Everyone who put themselves up above anybody else lied to you for their own agenda. And then you figured out that you don't know anything. All you have in your head is a compilation of lies from when you were children, and you know nothing else. And in order to know the truth, you'd have to start today and start opening your eyes and accepting truth. Your Pam Bondi is the biggest, she is the biggest cover-upper in the history of the United States. Add to her Cash Patel, another non-patriot, and whoever else Trump picked. They're there to do one thing. And they planned this ritual, and they planned to kill Charlie Kirk, and they planned it, for their own power, and they planned it for their own wealth, because they knew they had you duped. And even now today, you still don't know what happened. And you're still going to Candace and trying to find out, where the bullet went, and it couldn't be a 30-06, because you're still dealing with with minutia. The fact is, it's a big world. The Charlie Kirk execution was global. There was a lot going on there. If you were on the side of Satan, or Babylon, if you like. A lot of people on the left who are Christians are calling Trump the little horn or the Antichrist. And I don't make speculation like that. I just, I was hopeful about the peace deal because I don't want to see people killed. Okay. That doesn't mean he has to be perfect. He never was perfect. But if he can bring peace, then hallelujah. That's an answer to my prayer. God uses people to do things that are good, even if they themselves, aren't perfect. And no one is perfect, and no one can fix it all. And there is nothing to really fix. It's just whether you can stand up from here and go to the end. Can you do that? It used to be in the past, they'd say, don't tell them everything because they'll just commit suicide. But I understood from people the last few days, and they're telling me everyone is suicidal right now. So hearing nothing won't help you. The only thing that will help you is to accept the world that you're unfortunately born into. and then make adjustments in your thinking to realize that we're all refugees. We're all on our own. There is no collective. There is no family. There is no cabal. There is no corporation. There is no unity amongst people that can't be broken with a few dollars or like a bad stretch or something that goes wrong. And the next thing you know, it's broken up. The only thing that's not broken up is you and God. That's the only relationship that cannot be threatened with, because whenever they see anybody that's like on the path of God getting together for any kind of social activity or business activity, they send people in to fuck it up because they surveil every single one of you. Look at that. Look at how they were bragging about surveilling 277,000 that went to the State Farm. Every one of those people has been, having their Fourth Amendment broken completely. And their bank accounts, their phones, their personal information, their relationships, all of it completely invaded by going to Charlie Kirk's memorial. And the TPUSA people bragged about it right in front of you. Bragged. The head guy, that's like the guy that sucks up to Erika, the guy that, bows down and licks her feet. He's the guy that was bragging about it. And he assured us, he called Erika, he said, "Do you know anything? I know everything." And then the last video I saw of Erika was her telling people to bind their tongues. That's a very powerful weapon, that slander. You better bind your tongue if you want favor and hope with Jesus. And I said, honey, it's Jesus and you are about as far apart as, hot and cold. It's, well, how would Charlie Kirk get duped? Didn't he have discernment? No, he didn't have discernment. I'm sorry. No, he didn't. No, Charlie Kirk did not have discernment. He, in my view, was a lamb to the slaughter. I understand he was a pretty good guy. He tried to live by his principles and all that, but there were people around who basically, as Candace Owens is, finding out, betrayed him. But it wasn't the people around him. It was the whole world. And that's my angle on it. And that won't change forever. And if you've got a problem with that, there's plenty of people talking positive about TPUSA. They're down. They're giving more money than they've ever had. They're just awash with millions and millions of dollars. To this day, I've never seen an Angel Studios production. I'm very proud of that. I didn't do it. It wasn't like I was on a diet and trying not to eat something sweet. No, it never occurred when I'd see it there. I just automatically would feel repulsed and I wouldn't click on to it, Jesus, John the Baptist, and other programming they've had. And I have the same feeling about TPUSA. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if the real civil war broke out between TPUSA that aligns with the evangelicals and Catholics, let's say. I wouldn't be surprised that the evangelicals may in the future become a real problem, a militant problem. And, before you people on the left start celebrating that I've lost my conservative stance, no, it's not about left or right with me. I told you that. It's, right versus wrong, righteous versus unrighteous, God's way versus man's greedy way, man's vain way. That's it. It's real simple. And I'm going to, call balls and strikes on Trump. He did good with so far, until someone blows the peace deal. It's so far. Someone could blow the peace deal. And that's fine. And with trade, looks like he's made progress with everyone but China, which is a big problem, as you've seen with the markets collapsing mayhem going on in the financial world because China wants to fight. China wants to go to war. China wants to go to war. That's a whole other topic for a whole other time. No, the United States is not beloved in the world. You are not loved. You're considered in the way, and you're considered really the enemy. And if you know anything about the way things are working, then you're the double enemy, and they can't wait to get rid of you. And that doesn't feel right. When I walk around and I realize, gosh, people just can't wait to get rid of me. If I go to the hospital, they're just trying to find ways to maybe, make a mistake that they could get away with and do me in. This is what I found when I was a child. When I popped out of mommy's womb, this is how I found it. It hasn't changed my entire life. But to cope with it and to compromise oneself is already a form of suicide in the sense that you die inside, when you do that. People are going on and on about Taylor Swift. Well, she's the least of our problems, but she's not quite the queen, is she? She's more the harlot. I know they call the Queen of Babylon the harlot too. Mother of harlots. Mother of harlots. Yeah. And all this evil has to rise, before there's some kind of a break. But anyway, the Charlie Kirk thing, I think we're going to find is they're going to spend as much time as they can burying it. They've got 4K footage that shows a lot more detail as to what happened and who did what. There are people all around caught on camera doing things that look like are very suspicious. Erika says she knows everything about it. So that's how she took her place and was big smiles. And now she's lecturing people to guard their tongues. Pretty soon, I wouldn't be surprised if she becomes some kind of, a Supreme Court justice or something, and, sentencing people to, to death for, contemplating their navel or something. I mean, nothing would surprise me with that. I feel sorry for Charlie that he wound up in such a mess, surrounded by the enemy. Let's see how it plays out. It could just be something else, like Charlie's innocent, TPUSA was innocent, and bad guys of the New World Order or some foreign government came here to liquidate Charlie, but Trump's on them. Don't worry. Trump is on the case and he's going to find out who did this. And what? He's going to, you mean like Epstein who did that? Or Trump and Epstein friends for well over a decade before there was any falling out. And Erika Kirk was in there too. So I'm not surprised, and this is the whole truth. If there is any other truth to be told about it, there may be little, tributaries of events here and there, Antifa, this and that, civil war between, left and right, and so-called ideology. But really, it's just, the world is just one thing. If Antifa is used for anything, it's used by the whole world to eliminate people that are in the way, in the perceived in the way. Cheers, man. You must be pretty tough. I've had to be really tough, tougher than I ever thought I had to be, just to witness this stuff and not turn away. Like when Pam Bondi says she's not going to interview Howard Lutnick, who's a witness to the Epstein blackmail, and that she boldly said in front of Senator Kennedy and the whole world, no, Senator. And we don't have plans to subpoena him. And that's all you need to know.